The price was $1,200. I was standing at my kitchen counter with one hand on the edge of the sink, staring at a completed online listing on my phone. The photograph showed a brown cloth cover, a faded grease mark near the bottom, and a little split in the binding that I knew better than I knew some faces. The description called it an original regional recipe manuscript. It said the collection had been developed and preserved by the seller's family. That was the part that made me sit down. My name is Neil Grant, and I'm 67 years old. Where are you listening from tonight? I live on Maple Street in Leaditz, Pennsylvania. The house is an old brick place with narrow stairs and floors that complain when the weather changes. Behind it sits a carriage house that I converted into a commercial kitchen several years ago. I'm a cabinet maker. I've spent most of my life measuring twice, cutting once, and fixing other people's mistakes without making them feel foolish. It's a useful habit in a shop. It's not always a useful habit in a family. My wife Janet died 4 years ago. She was 62. After that, the house stayed exactly as she'd left it for longer than I'd admit to anyone. Her blue raincoat remained on the hook beside the back door through an entire summer. Her reading glasses sat next to a gardening catalog until dust settled along the arms. I eventually put away most of those things. The one thing I never considered putting away was her recipe book. It wasn't printed or bound professionally. Janet had started with a blank ledger from an office supply store. Over the years, she filled it with recipes, notes, taped-in cards, and corrections written wherever she found room. Some pages had 3 versions of the same dish. She would cross out half a cup, write 1/3, then add a question mark because she still wasn't convinced. She kept the book in the china cabinet in our dining room. After she died, I left it there. I didn't cook from it often. That wasn't really the point. Sometimes I opened it just to see her handwriting. The first time Brooke asked to use it was on a Sunday afternoon in March. She and my son, Stephen, had come over after finishing a catering delivery. They entered through the back door without knocking, which was normal then. Brooke carried a plastic tub full of dirty serving spoons. "Your hot water is better than ours," she said. She meant the carriage house kitchen. She and Stephen had been running their catering business there for about 2 years. I charged them no rent. I paid the gas, electricity, water, and most repairs. They bought ingredients and handled their own business expenses. At the time, I thought that arrangement made sense. The kitchen was sitting there, and they needed it. Stephen was my only son. When your grown son says he's trying to build something, it feels natural to hand him whatever tool you have. I'd completed the kitchen in 2018. That was before Stephen and Brooke started catering there. I'd gone through the permits, installed washable wall panels, upgraded the electrical service, and added a 3-basin sink. The county required paperwork connecting their business to the approved kitchen, so I'd signed a commissary use authorization when they moved in. The agreement sat in a white permit binder on a metal shelf near the kitchen office. I barely thought about it. I treated it like the fire inspection certificate or the hood cleaning record. It was just another piece of paper that kept everyone working. That afternoon, Brooke washed the spoons while Stephen carried empty trays out to their van. I made coffee and noticed a folded invoice beside her purse. It was printed on pink paper. "Something overdue?" I asked. Brooke looked down, just a supplier being dramatic. "Do you need a few days?" "We're fine, Neil." She said it quickly, then pushed the invoice into her purse. Stephen came back inside and opened the refrigerator. "You have any of that ham left?" "Second shelf." He took out the container and ate a slice while standing there. Brooke dried her hands. "Actually, Neil, I wanted to ask you about something." She followed me into the dining room. Stephen came too, still chewing. I opened the china cabinet because I already had an idea what she wanted. Brooke's expression changed when she saw Janet's book. "There it is," she said. "I haven't looked at that in forever. You looked at it last Christmas. I mean properly." I set the book on the dining table. Brooke sat down and turned the pages carefully at first. She stopped at Janet's chicken corn soup. "This is what I'm talking about," she said. "People want food with a story now." Stephen pulled out a chair. "She's planning a heritage menu." Brooke nodded. "Local dishes, family-style service, handwritten menu cards. It could help us stand out for spring events." I watched her trace a finger beside Janet's note about adding noodles only after the broth returned to a boil. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Just permission to use a few recipes." That sounded reasonable. Janet had shared recipes all her life. She traded them with neighbors and mailed them to friends. Her friend Rhonda Miller had exchanged recipes with her for decades. Half the book contained notes like, Rhonda uses less vinegar, or try Rhonda's spice mix. You can copy whatever you need, I said. Brooke smiled. Thank you. Here in the house. Her smile stayed in place, but the warmth left it. What do you mean? I mean, the book stays here. Take pictures or write things down. Don't carry it back to the kitchen. Neil, I'm not going to hurt it. I didn't say you would. We have a scanner in the office. It'll take 10 minutes. No. Copy the pages here. Stephen leaned back and rubbed the side of his neck. He did that whenever a conversation started requiring him to choose a side. Brooke looked at him. Can you explain that I'm not a child? Stephen gave a small sigh. Dad's just careful with Mom's things. I'm careful too. I closed the cover and rested my hand on it. You asked and I said yes. The only condition is that it doesn't leave this room. Brooke looked toward the kitchen. The coffee maker clicked as it shut itself off. Fine, she said. She took out her phone and photographed 6 pages. I stood nearby, not because I distrusted her, but because I needed to return the book to the cabinet when she finished. At least, that was what I told myself. She photographed the soup, chicken pot pie, brown butter noodles, chow chow, apple dumplings, and a molasses cake Janet used to make in October. Then she put her phone down. Happy? Brooke asked. It's not about being happy. No, I know. It's sacred. The way she said sacred made it sound like an unreasonable word. Stephen glanced at her. Brooke. What? I said I understand. She didn't. I could tell she didn't. Still, she handed me the book, and I placed it back in the china cabinet. That should have been the end of it. Over the next 2 weeks, I helped them prepare for the new menu. Brooke sent me a list of changes she wanted in the carriage house. She wanted a narrow shelf above the prep table, a rack for sheet pans, and a better place to store serving boards. I built the shelf from maple left over from another job. I installed it on a Tuesday morning before they arrived. When Brooke saw it, she ran her hand along the front edge. This is perfect, she said. You should sell these. I do sell them, you know what I mean. I didn't, but I let it go. Stephen arrived carrying onions and 2 cases of canned tomatoes. He looked exhausted. His beard had grown unevenly along his jaw. Long night? I asked. Brooke was working on the menu until 2. Brooke opened a cupboard harder than necessary. Somebody has to, she said. Stephen looked at the floor. That was one of those moments I noticed and then excused. They were married. Married people snapped at each other. Janet and I had our days too. I didn't want to be the father who treated every tense conversation like an invitation. So I checked the new shelf with my level, packed my drill, and left. A few days later, Brooke asked whether the gas bill had come. It came yesterday, I said. Was it bad? Higher than last month. She waited. I knew what she was waiting for. I paid it, I said. Her shoulders dropped. Okay, good. She didn't thank me. That bothered me for maybe 5 seconds. Then I felt ashamed for wanting thanks from family. That was how things worked between us. I made the difficulty disappear. They moved on. The heritage menu launched at a private tasting in the carriage house near the end of March. I wasn't invited as a guest exactly. Brooke asked me to repair a loose wheel on a serving cart and then told me I could stay if I wanted. There were 8 prospective clients at the tasting. Brooke set the tables with cream-colored cloths and small jars of dried wheat. She'd printed cards describing each dish. I read the card beside the chicken corn soup. Brooke's Pennsylvania Dutch chicken corn soup, perfected through years of family cooking. I stood there longer than I meant to. Brooke came up beside me carrying a pitcher of water. Looks professional, right? Janet worked on that soup for years. Brooke lowered her voice. This is marketing. It says your name. It's the business name people associate with the food. No, it says Brooke. One of the guests looked over. Brooke smiled at her, then turned back to me. Can we not do this right now? I looked around the room. The soup was in white cups. Janet's brown butter noodles sat under a heat lamp. Her apple dumplings were arranged on a slate board that I had made for Brooke the previous Christmas. Stephen stood near the stove. He had heard us, but he kept folding napkins. I didn't argue. I tightened the cart wheel and left through the side door. At first I told myself I was being sensitive. Janet had freely shared food. She never guarded a recipe like a bank password. If she'd been standing there, she might have laughed and told me to stop fussing. But Janet also gave things herself. People didn't get to reach backward after her death and change the name on what she'd made. The following Sunday, Stephen came to the house alone. He said Brooke was at the carriage house preparing for an event. We ate sandwiches at the kitchen table. He talked about bookings, staffing, and how difficult it was to turn a profit when ingredient prices kept changing. Is the business in trouble? I asked. No. That answer came fast. He put down his sandwich. It's tight. That's different. Brooke had an overdue supplier bill. She paid it. How? Stephen looked toward the back window. The carriage house roof was visible beyond the yard. We had money come in. From what? A deposit. I don't know. Brooke handles most of that. He picked up his sandwich again, though he didn't take another bite. You should know where money comes from, I said. I know enough. That sounded like something a man says when he knows less than he wants anyone to realize. After lunch, Stephen went into the dining room. I stayed in the kitchen and wrapped the remaining sandwiches. I heard the china cabinet door open. What are you doing? I called, looking at Mom's book. I dried my hands and walked in. The book lay open on the table. Brooke needs one page she missed, he said. She can come copy it. She's in the middle of cooking. Then she can do it later. Stephen held up his phone. I'm taking a picture, Dad. I watched him photograph the Chow Chow page. That's all? I asked. That's all. He closed the book. I carried it back to the cabinet myself. Stephen watched me turn the little brass key and place it on the top ledge inside the cabinet frame. You're locking it now? He asked. I'm keeping track of it. He gave me a tired look. Brooke isn't trying to steal Mom from you. I didn't say she was. You don't have to. You get this tone. What tone? The one where everybody has disappointed you. That landed harder than I expected. I stepped away from the cabinet. I gave you both a place to run your business. I pay the bills. I fix what breaks. I asked for one thing. I know. Do you? He rubbed his neck again. I'm not fighting with you, he said. He left 5 minutes later. I heard his truck start, then stop near the carriage house. Through the window, I saw Brooke come outside. Stephen handed her his phone. The next morning, I went to place a clean table runner in the china cabinet. The door wasn't locked. The brass key was still hidden on the upper ledge, exactly where I'd left it. I opened the door. Janet's recipe book was gone. I checked behind the plates. I removed 2 serving bowls and looked beneath them. Then I searched the dining table, the sideboard, and the kitchen counter, though I knew I hadn't moved it. I called Stephen. He didn't answer. I called again. This time he picked up. Dad, I'm driving. Where's your mother's book? There was a pause. I could hear the turn signal clicking. What book? You know which book. Another pause. Brooke needed to scan a few pages. I told her it stays in this house. I know, but she was in a hurry. You carried it out? I was going to bring it back. When? Tonight? I looked through the window at the carriage house. Brooke's car was parked beside the side door. Does she have it now? Dad, please don't go over there angry. That answered me. I took my coat from the hook and put the brass cabinet key in my pocket. Before leaving, I photographed the empty shelf where Janet's book had been. Then I walked across the yard toward the carriage house. Brooke was standing at the prep table with a piping bag in one hand. Trays of small pastry shells covered the table. She looked at my coat, then at my face. What happened? Where's the book? Her hand stopped above a pastry shell. Stephen called you. I called him. He wasn't supposed to tell you until it was back. That would have made it all right? No, Neil. That would have avoided exactly this. She put the piping bag into a stainless bowl. The office door behind her stood partly open. I could see the scanner on the desk, but there was nothing on it. Bring it out, I said. It's being scanned. Where? At a document place. What document place? I don't remember the name. You took Janet's book somewhere, and you don't remember where. I arranged it online. A courier picked it up. That explanation didn't settle anything. It made it worse. Show me the order. Brooke folded her arms. Why? So I know where the book is. You know where it is. It's being scanned. That isn't a place. She turned toward the office. I followed her inside. The room was barely large enough for a desk and 2 chairs. I had built the desk against the wall so they could keep the floor clear. Brooke woke the computer and opened her email. She scrolled fast enough that I couldn't read the subject lines. There, she said. She opened a confirmation from a document scanning service. It showed a pickup date from the previous afternoon and an estimated return on Tuesday. The description only said 1 bound manuscript. Where are they located? Lancaster. Call them, Neil. Call them and tell them not to cut the binding. Her expression changed. They're not cutting anything. Then it should be easy to confirm. I selected non-destructive scanning. Call. She stared at me for several seconds, then clicked the phone number in the email. She put her cell on speaker. A recorded voice said the office was closed on Mondays. Brooke ended the call before the menu finished. See, she said. No, I heard a recording. She turned back to the computer and opened the order details. Near the bottom was a checked box beside non-destructive handling. I read it twice. That was the first useful thing I learned. She had lied about taking the book to the office scanner, but at least the order existed. Someone had picked it up, and the instructions said not to damage it. Forward that to me, I said. I'll send it when the book comes back. Send it now. She clicked forward and entered my email address. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. There, she said. Can I get back to work? Why didn't you ask me? I did ask you. I said it stayed in the house. You put restrictions on it that made it almost useless. You took it anyway. We needed clean files. Phone pictures have shadows. The pages curve near the binding. You can't make good menu materials from that. You could have asked me again. And you would have said no again. That was my answer. She looked past me toward the kitchen door. I'm trying to run a business, and I'm trying to get my wife's property back. She let out a breath through her nose. Your late wife? She said quietly. I heard it. So did she. Brooke looked down at the keyboard. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? I mean, Janet isn't using the book. I didn't answer. She pushed her chair back and stood. That sounded awful, she said. I know that. But you treat every object in that house like she might come back for it. I put my hand in my pocket and closed my fingers around the cabinet key. When does the courier return it? Tuesday afternoon. I'll be here. You don't have to supervise everything. I'll be here. I walked out without raising my voice. That seemed to bother her more than if I had shouted. Halfway across the yard, I heard the carriage house door open. Neil, I stopped. Brooke stood on the step. The freezer has been making a clicking sound, she said. Stephen was going to mention it. There it was. We had gone from my missing property to an appliance she needed me to fix in less than 2 minutes. Call a repair company, I said. She blinked. You always look at it first, not today. We have food in there, then call someone today. She looked genuinely confused as I continued toward the house. Inside, I hung my coat beside Janet's blue raincoat. I had never managed to move that one. I told myself it was useful for guests, though no guest had ever worn it. The dining room cabinet remained open. I shut it and turned the key. Then I checked my email. Brooke's forwarded confirmation was there. I printed it and placed it on the table. The printer made the room smell faintly warm and dusty. Janet used to complain that I printed everything. If the house catches fire, she once told me, you'll be standing in the yard holding a file folder. She wasn't wrong. I took a plain folder from the desk drawer and put the scanning confirmation inside. I wrote Janet's recipe book on the tab. The words looked strange in my handwriting. Stephen came over that evening. He didn't use the back door. He knocked at the front. When I opened it, he stood with both hands in his jacket pockets. Can I come in? You usually do. That's not an answer. I stepped aside. He walked into the kitchen and sat at the table. I stayed standing. Brooke said, you left angry. I left before I became angry. She shouldn't have taken the book. No, I told her that. When? He looked at the table. After you called. Did you tell her before you carried it out? She said she needed it for one night. You knew what I said. I thought she'd scan it here. You told me she had missed one page. She did miss one. And then, she asked me to bring the book over. Did you unlock the cabinet? He rubbed his palms on his jeans. Yes. How did you know where the key was? I watched you put it there. I pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. Stephen looked older when he was worried. Not old exactly. Just worn down around the eyes. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because I knew you'd say no. That sounds familiar. He leaned back. I'm sorry, are you? Yes. Then bring it home Tuesday. I will, not Brooke. You? Fine. He looked toward the counter where I'd left the scanning confirmation. You made a file? I printed what she sent. You don't need a case file against your family. I need to know where the book is. You know, I know a company picked it up. I don't know why Brooke couldn't use the photographs I already allowed. She wants high-quality copies. For what? The menu, social media, maybe a small recipe insert for clients. Did she say anything about selling copies? No. He answered too quickly. I watched him. Did she? Not that I know of. That isn't the same answer. Dad, I don't know every idea she has. She talks through things. Half of them never happen. Then ask her. He pressed his lips together. That was Stephen's pattern. He could carry a heavy stock pot alone. He could work 14 hours at an outdoor wedding. But ask him to carry one uncomfortable sentence between two people, and he found a way to set it down. I need you to ask her exactly what she plans to do with those scans, I said. She's already stressed. So am I. She has 3 events this week. I'm not asking about her calendar. He stood and went to the sink. He filled a glass, drank half, then stared out at the dark yard. The business is finally getting some attention, he said. That tasting led to 2 bookings. I'm glad. She thinks you don't respect what she's building. I built the kitchen she's standing in. I know. Do you? He turned around. That's the problem. Everything comes back to what you've done for us. I felt my shoulders tighten. You came here to discuss the book. I'm trying to explain why she gets defensive. I don't bring up the kitchen every day. You don't have to. We know what it costs. I almost said they clearly didn't, because they had never paid the bills. I stopped myself. He put the glass in the sink. Mom used to make things easier, he said. The kitchen went still. How? She could tell you something without it becoming a principle. What principle am I making? That there's one right way to care about her. I looked at him, and for a moment I couldn't find an answer. He picked up his jacket from the chair. I'll bring the book Tuesday, he said. Ask Brooke about the scans. I heard you. That isn't a yes. He closed his eyes briefly. Yes, I'll ask. After he left, I washed the glass he had used. It was already clean except for a faint thumbprint near the rim. I stood there rubbing the same spot with the dish towel. Janet had made things easier. That much was true. She remembered birthdays, invited people over, and called Stephen without needing a reason. I called when his truck sounded wrong or when a storm was coming. If he called me, it was usually because something had broken. I had accepted that arrangement because broken things were familiar to me. A damaged drawer told you what it needed. A loose hinge didn't make you guess. You found the problem, chose the right tool, and proved your care by leaving it better than you found it. People weren't built that way, but I had treated them as if they were. The next morning, the freezer repair company called my house. A woman said, Mr. Grant, I have a service request for your commercial unit. I didn't make one. Oh. The caller gave us your number for billing. I looked through the kitchen window. Brooke was outside the carriage house, moving boxes from her car. Who made the request? A Brooke Grant. Did she approve a service fee? She said the property owner handles maintenance. Of course she did. I could have told the woman to cancel. Instead, I asked when the technician could come. We have an opening between noon and 3. What's the service charge? She told me. I looked at Janet's raincoat hanging by the door. Keep the appointment, I said. The words came out before I had decided to say them. I gave her my email address and ended the call. Then I stood there feeling foolish. 5 minutes earlier, I had been thinking about boundaries. The moment someone presented me with a practical problem, I stepped right back into my assigned place. At noon, a repair van pulled into the alley. I crossed the yard to meet the technician. Brooke was piping filling into pastry shells again. You got someone fast, she said. You called them. I didn't think you'd mind. I told you to arrange it yourself. I did. You put the bill in my name. She wiped her fingers on a towel. It's your freezer. It serves your business. And it belongs to your building. The technician stood near the door holding his tool bag. He looked from Brooke to me. Want me to come back? He asked. No, I said. Check the freezer. He found a worn relay. It was a small part, simple to replace. He showed it to me before installing the new one. That should stop the clicking, he said. I paid the service charge and took the receipt. Brooke opened the freezer and listened. Good, she said. We couldn't lose all that food. I waited. She started moving trays back onto the shelves. You're welcome, I said. She looked over her shoulder. Thank you, Neil. It sounded forced, but at least she said it. I walked into the office to put the repair receipt in the permit binder. The white binder was where it always sat. Inside were inspection sheets, equipment records, the commissary authorization, and copies of utility information. I added the receipt behind the maintenance tab. Then I noticed a printed spreadsheet on the desk. Across the top, Brooke had listed monthly operating costs. Rent showed 0, gas showed 0, electric showed 0, Water showed 0, repairs showed 0. Those weren't estimates, they were assumptions. At the bottom, under advantages, she had typed family-owned kitchen access. I didn't take the sheet, I didn't photograph it. It was her office, and I had entered to file a receipt. But I read those 3 words again, family-owned kitchen access. It made my help sound permanent. More than permanent, it made it sound shared. Brooke appeared in the doorway. Looking for something, putting away the repair receipt. She saw the spreadsheet and moved it beneath another paper. That's just internal planning. I didn't ask. Her face tightened. The book comes back tomorrow, she said. Stephen is bringing it to me. I know. And he's asking you what you intend to do with the scans. He already asked. What did you tell him? That they're for business materials. Nothing else? No. She held my gaze. I wanted to believe her. More than that, I wanted to accept the answer and go back to being useful. Useful was the closest thing I had to easy company. I tapped the white permit binder. From now on, if something breaks, ask me directly before you put my name on a bill. Brooke glanced at the freezer. You would have paid it anyway. That doesn't mean you get to decide. She didn't answer. I left the carriage house carrying the repair receipt instead of filing it. At home, I placed it in the folder with the scanning order. Then I called Stephen. He answered with, "What now?" "Tomorrow, when you bring the book, come inside and hand it to me." I said I would. I'm making sure we understand each other. We do. And if either of you needs money or a repair, ask me plainly. No hints. No using my name and telling me afterward. He was quiet. All right, he said. It was a small answer. Still, it was the first direct agreement I'd required from him in a long time. I wrote Tuesday on a note and set it beside the empty shelf in the china cabinet. Tuesday came with steady rain and no message from Stephen. By 11, I had checked the front window often enough to annoy myself. I moved the note from beside the cabinet and put it in my pocket. At noon, I called him. He answered after 5 rings. I'm at a delivery, he said. You were supposed to bring the book. The courier got delayed. Brooke said, Tuesday afternoon. It is Tuesday afternoon. It's 12:10. Then give it a little time. Where's the courier coming from? I don't know, Dad. Lancaster. If you know, why are you asking? I'm asking whether you spoke to Brooke. I spoke to her this morning, and she said the book is still at the scanning company. That's what she said. He sounded irritated, but not uncertain. I almost ended the call. Then I remembered his answer about the supplier bill. Brooke handles most of that. He had a way of speaking confidently about things he hadn't checked. Did you speak to the scanning company? I asked. No. Did you look at the order? No. Then you don't know where it is. I know what my wife told me. That wasn't my question. A man said something in the background. Stephen covered the phone, answered him, then came back. I have to go. Bring the book today. I'll handle it. He ended the call. I stood in the dining room, holding my phone. For most of Stephen's life, I had accepted I'll handle it as if something had actually been handled. This time, I opened Brooke's forwarded email. The scanning company had included an order number and a customer service link. I entered the number on their website. The status showed complete. Below it, another line showed return delivery, delivered at 10:14 that morning, signed by B. Grant. I took a screenshot. Then I called the company. A woman answered and asked for the order number. I read it to her. Yes, that was returned this morning, she said. To the pickup address? That's correct. Can you tell me who signed? I have B. Grant. Was there any request for a second scan? She typed for a few seconds. No. The digital files passed quality review yesterday. So, you no longer have the book. No, sir. I thanked her and ended the call. The deliberate part was simple. I had checked one thing for myself. It worked. And now I knew both Brooke and Stephen had given me false information. I crossed the yard in the rain without putting on a coat. The side door was locked. I knocked. Yes, we can do the vegetarian option, she said. The Heritage package is the most popular, but I can customize it. I stepped inside and shut the door. Brooke sat at the office desk. I stayed near the doorway until she finished. Sorry, she said after hanging up. Potential client. The book was delivered here at 10:14. Her eyes shifted toward the desk. No, it wasn't. I showed her the screenshot. She read it, then looked away. It came back, but 2 of the files weren't right. The company says they passed review. I didn't say the company rejected them. I rejected them. Where is the book? I sent it back. When? This morning. With which courier? I don't know his name. Show me the new order. I haven't gotten the confirmation yet. Then show me the payment. Neil, this is getting ridiculous. It became ridiculous when you lied to my son and told him the book was delayed. I didn't lie to Stephen. He said it was still with the courier. That was probably what he assumed. He said you told him. She looked toward the kitchen. The exhaust hood was running, though no one was cooking. Its low hum filled the silence. I told him there was a delay with the scans, she said. He misunderstood. He repeated your words. You're treating this like an interrogation. I asked where my property is, and I told you. No, you gave me another place I can't verify. She stood. I'm not doing this with you in my workplace. Your workplace is on my property. As soon as I said it, I heard Stephen's complaint from the night before. Everything comes back to what you've done for us. Brooke heard it too. There it is, she said. I'm not holding the kitchen over you. You just did. I'm explaining why I'm allowed to stand here. You never used to need permission. Neither did you, apparently. Her mouth tightened. I pointed toward the computer. Show me one of the files. What? The scanned pages. Show me what was important enough to ignore my answer. She hesitated. That hesitation told me more than anything else she'd said. Open the files, I said. She sat down and moved the mouse. A folder appeared with image files named by page number. She opened the chicken corn soup page. The scan was sharp. Janet's handwriting filled the screen. Every correction was visible, including the little arrow she drew around the word celery. Now, show me the page that failed. I said I didn't like two of them. Which two? She scrolled down and opened the apple dumpling page. It looked just as clear. Maybe it was the chow chow, she said. She opened that one too. I leaned closer. A pencil note ran along the bottom in Janet's handwriting. Rhonda and I tried less sugar, better with 2 peppers. The scan was clean from corner to corner. What's wrong with that? I asked. It isn't aligned. It looks aligned. It's for printing. You wouldn't understand the requirements. Then explain them. She closed the file. I don't have time. Did you send the book back? Yes. I looked at her phone. Call them. They won't have processed it yet. Call the courier. I arranged it through the website. Show me. She pushed away from the desk. You need to leave. Brooke, I have food arriving in 20 minutes, and I'm not letting you stand over me while I work. I could have refused. It was my building. I had a key to every door. But if I stayed, the argument would become about whether I had disrupted her business. The missing book would disappear beneath it. So I left. Back in the house, I changed my wet shirt and made coffee. I put the scanning screenshot in the folder. The folder now held 3 pieces of paper. None of them told me where the book was. I opened the digital file Brooke had forwarded earlier. The confirmation included a download link for the person who placed the order. I couldn't access it without her password. That didn't surprise me. What did surprise me was a line near the bottom. Purpose of scan, commercial reproduction. I read the phrase several times. It didn't prove what kind of reproduction. Menus were commercial. Recipe inserts could be commercial. Even social media images might fit that description. Still, Brooke had described the scans as cleaner copies for business materials. She hadn't said she'd formally listed the purpose that way. I went to the catering company's public page. The top photograph showed Brooke standing at the carriage house prep table. The maple shelf I had built was behind her. A bowl of chicken corn soup sat in front of her, along with a printed menu card. Under the photograph, she had written that the new collection came from recipes passed through her family for generations. There were more posts below it. One showed Janet's apple dumplings. Another showed the chow chow jars arranged beside a photograph of the handwritten page. The caption said, Brooke was opening her family archives for the first time. I enlarged the photograph. Janet's note about Rhonda was cropped out. The top of the page, where Janet had written her own name years earlier, had also been cropped. I took screenshots of every post. Then I found the catering website. Brooke had added a page called Our Food Story. It described her as the keeper of a private Pennsylvania recipe collection. It said she had spent years preserving the women's work behind the food. Janet's name did not appear anywhere. Neither did mine. I wasn't looking for credit. I hadn't written a single recipe. But the omission showed me the difference between using the food and taking its history. I called Stephen again. This time, he sent me to voicemail. Call me when you're finished, I said. I checked the delivery. The book came back this morning. I also saw the website. We need to talk in person. I ended the message and set the phone down. 10 minutes later, Brooke called. What did you say to Stephen? I told him what I found. You're making him panic while he's working. He told me the courier was delayed. Because that's what I told him. So you did tell him. I said there was a delay. You twisted it. Where's the book? I've answered you. You have not shown me a second order. I don't owe you access to my business accounts. The order concerns my book. The files concern my business. The writing in those files belongs to Janet. Recipes aren't owned, Neil. I went quiet. She continued before I could answer. You can't own soup. You can't own dumplings. People make the same things all over Lancaster County. I'm not talking about soup. Then what are you talking about? Her pages, her notes, her name? I'm using material you gave me permission to use. I gave you permission to copy 6 recipes inside my house. And I copied them. You removed the book. Stephen did. There it was. She said it as if the hand that carried the book changed who had asked for it. You told him to. He made his own choice. And you made yours. Exactly. She meant it as a defense. I heard it as a warning. I want the post corrected, I said. What correction? Stop calling those recipes yours. Put Janet's name on them. That weakens the brand. It tells the truth. It confuses customers. They know me. They don't know Janet. Then introduce her. This is a catering company, not a family memorial. I looked toward Janet's raincoat. When will the book be returned? I'll let you know. That's no longer good enough. What are you going to do? It was the first direct question she had asked me. I'm going to find out where it is. She gave a short laugh. How? I'll start with what you've already put in public. She ended the call. I spent the next hour reading every public post connected to the heritage menu. Most were ordinary photographs of food. Some had been online for weeks. I had simply never looked. One post announced a larger public tasting at the Carriage House in early May. Brooke had invited local event planners and customers. The wording promised a display of original handwritten material from her private collection. The date was less than 6 weeks away. That gave me a reason she might want the physical book beyond scanning. It also gave her a deadline she hadn't mentioned. I printed the announcement. When the page came out, I noticed a small shopping bag symbol beneath the photograph. It linked to a marketplace profile under Brooke's business name. I clicked it. The profile offered printed recipe cards, menu booklets, and reserved tasting tickets. There were no handwritten originals listed, not then, but the profile showed 3 completed sales from the previous week. The item descriptions were hidden from public view, only the prices remained. One was $40, one was $65, the third was $1,200. I stared at that amount, then clicked the empty space where the item had been. A message appeared. This listing is no longer publicly available. I didn't know what had sold. A private dinner could cost $1,200. A catering deposit could cost more. The marketplace profile mixed products and services, so the price alone proved nothing. Still, it was the first thing I had found that Brooke had not prepared an explanation for. I saved the link and printed the page. Then I called Stephen a 3rd time. He answered in a low voice. I'm home now. Come over. Brooke told me about the website. This isn't only about the website. What else is there? A completed sale for $1,200. He didn't speak. Stephen? I don't know what you're looking at. The business marketplace. That could be anything. Yes, it could. Then why are you calling me like this? Because your mother's book is missing, Brooke lied about its return, and she advertised handwritten material for a public tasting. You think she sold the book? I didn't say that. You're acting like she did. I'm asking you to help me find out what the sale was. He breathed into the phone. I can ask her. No, come here first. Why? Because every time you ask her a question, you return with an answer you haven't checked. That hurt him. I could hear it in the silence. I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said. I placed the marketplace printout beside the scanning confirmation. Then I unlocked the china cabinet and removed Janet's old address book from the lower shelf. Rhonda Miller's number was written under M in blue ink. I didn't call it yet. I set the address book on the table and waited for Stephen. He arrived 23 minutes later and sat across from me. I turned the marketplace printout toward him. Stephen read the page without touching it. You recognize the account? I asked. It's Brooke's business account. What sold for $1,200? I don't know. You said that on the phone. It's still true. Ask her now. He looked at the address book beside my hand. Why is Mom's address book out? I was thinking of calling Rhonda. For what? She exchanged recipes with your mother. She may know whether Janet ever intended those pages to be sold. You don't even know that's what happened. No. I know the book is gone. I know Brooke lied about where it was. I know she removed Janet's name from public photographs. Now there's a sale she hasn't explained. Stephen picked up the printout. Let me talk to her first. You've had since Sunday. I didn't know about this. You knew the book was supposed to come back today. He set the paper down. I'm not defending the way she handled it. You keep saying that while defending the way she handled it. That's not fair. Then help me. He leaned forward with his elbows on his knees. What do you want me to do? Call her. Ask what sold. In front of you? Yes. He stared at the floor for a few seconds, then took out his phone. Brooke answered immediately. Hey, she said. Are you still at his house? Stephen put the call on speaker. Yes. She went quiet. He cleared his throat. Dad found the marketplace page. What marketplace page? The business account. There's a sale for $1,200. Okay, what was it? A heritage package. What does that mean? It means exactly what it says. Stephen looked at me. What did the customer buy? He asked. A private tasting package with collectible material. What material? Stephen, I'm driving. Did you sell Mom's book? The question came out louder than he intended. Brooke didn't answer for several seconds. Then she said, No. I watched Stephen's shoulders drop. What happened to it? He asked. I already told both of you. It needed another scan. Dad called the company. Of course he did. They said the order was complete. I used another service. Which one? Can we talk when I get home? No, Stephen said. It was the first time I'd heard him refuse her without softening it. No, tell me now. Where is the book? I don't have the details in front of me. What did the customer buy for $1,200? A package. Did the package include the original book? No. The answer was clear. It also came after enough delay to make it difficult to trust. Brooke continued. The listing uses the book as part of the collection's history. The buyer gets a printed facsimile, a private tasting, and some supporting material. Then, why does the listing say it's no longer available? I asked. Because it sold. Send us the listing. You're looking at it. The completed page hides the description. I don't have the old page on my phone. You created it. I said, I'm driving. Pull over, Stephen said. Brooke gave a sharp laugh. Are you serious? Yes, I'm 5 minutes away. I'll meet you at the carriage house. She ended the call. Stephen stared at his phone. You heard her say she didn't sell it, he said. I heard. Do you believe her? Do you? He didn't answer. We walked across the yard together. The rain had slowed to a mist. Brooke's car turned into the alley as we reached the carriage house. She parked, stayed behind the wheel for a moment, then got out carrying her laptop bag. I cannot believe this, she said. She unlocked the side door and walked inside. We followed her into the office. She set the laptop on the desk and opened it. There, she said after signing in. The listing. The seller view showed more than the public page. At the top was a photograph of Janet's recipe book. The brown cover filled most of the frame. The faded grease mark showed near the bottom. So did the split in the binding. The title read, Original Regional Recipe Manuscript. The price was $1,200. I felt the edge of the desk under my fingers. That was the moment from which I began this story. Until then, I had been dealing with a missing object and a family argument. Seeing the book presented that way changed the size of it. I scrolled down. The seller's description called it a handwritten collection representing generations of Pennsylvania cooking. It mentioned corrections, substitutions, and personal notes. It also said the package included a tasting experience and selected reproductions. It did not plainly say whether the physical manuscript went to the buyer. Open the order details, I said. No. Why? Because they contain customer information. Cover the name. I don't have to show you private business records. Stephen stepped beside me. Brooke, just show us what they bought. I did. No, you showed us the advertisement. She shut the laptop halfway. This is absurd. I said I didn't sell the physical book. Then where is it? I asked. It's safe. That isn't what you said earlier. It's with another scanning service. Name the service. I hired someone independently. Who? A document photographer. Name. She closed the laptop completely. No. You've already called one company and acted like I committed a crime. I asked whether they had my property. You were checking up on me. Yes, the answer seemed to surprise her. I had spent days trying not to sound suspicious. I no longer saw the point. I checked because you gave me false information, I said. It confirmed you had the book returned this morning, for an hour. Then you sent it away again, without asking. I'm finishing work I already paid for. No more work. Get it back. I can't cancel in the middle. Then tell me when it returns. I don't have an exact time. Tomorrow? Probably not. Friday? Maybe. I looked at Stephen. He was staring at the closed laptop. You knew about the listing? I asked him. No. Brooke looked at him. You knew I was developing premium packages. I didn't know you photographed Mom's book for one. It's the source material. It isn't yours. The room went silent. Brooke folded her arms. Neither of you cared about these recipes until I turned them into something people wanted. I felt Stephen look at me. I kept my eyes on Brooke. You think no one wanted them before you? I mean commercially. Janet fed people with those recipes for 40 years. And I'm building on that. You removed her name. Because customers need one clear story. It wasn't your story. I married into this family. That doesn't make her handwriting yours. Brooke picked up her laptop bag. I'm done discussing branding with you. This isn't a branding discussion. It is to me. That's the problem. She took a step toward the door. I moved aside, but I spoke before she reached it. You have until Friday at 5 to return the book. She stopped. And if I can't, no new photographs, no displays, no more products from the scans. Correct the website and the posts. You can't order me to change my business. I can tell you how my wife's work may be used. Recipes aren't protected property. The book is. She looked at Stephen. Are you going to let him threaten our business? Stephen's face went red. He wants his book back. So do I said. Brooke shook her head. This is exactly why I didn't tell you every detail. You turn one decision into a loyalty test. No, I gave you a boundary. You decided it didn't matter. She walked out. The side door closed behind her. Stephen remained in the office. I didn't know about the listing, he said. I believe you. He looked up quickly. That small piece of trust seemed to hurt him more than accusation would have. But you carried the book out, I said. I know. You watched me lock it away, and then you used the key. I know. Why? He sat in Brooke's chair. She said the menu could change things for us. We lost 2 wedding bookings over winter. The supplier was threatening to stop deliveries. She said if we had professional scans, she could make products that didn't depend on events. Did she say she'd list the book? No. Did she say she'd use it as a collectible? No. Did you ask? He rubbed both hands over his face. No. I opened the permit binder and took out a blank sheet of printer paper. I wrote the date and time at the top. Stephen watched me. What are you doing? Putting my request in writing. To your own family? My spoken answer didn't hold. I wrote that the recipe book must be returned by Friday at 5. I added that no further reproductions, sales, displays, or public claims were authorized. I kept the language plain, then I signed it. This isn't a legal notice, Stephen said. It doesn't need to be. It tells both of you what I'm asking. You think she's going to sign it? I'm not asking her to agree. I'm making sure she can't say she misunderstood. I made 2 copies using the office printer. I handed one to Stephen. Give that to Brooke. He accepted it. What happens Friday? I decide that Friday. We left the office together. I locked the carriage house side door behind us, then opened it again with my own key and handed Stephen his copy. The action was small, but it mattered to me. The key worked because I allowed access. For the first time, I noticed the difference between helping someone enter and giving away the door. Back in the house, I emailed the same notice to Brooke and Stephen. Brooke replied 9 minutes later. Received. I dispute your characterization, but I will review the requested return date. It was the sort of sentence someone writes when they want to sound cooperative without promising anything. Still, she had acknowledged the deadline. That was the first boundary I could prove she had received. The next morning, I opened the front door and found a grocery bag hanging from the knob. Inside were a loaf of bread, 2 containers of soup, and several pamphlets. The soup had come from the catering kitchen. One pamphlet was about fall prevention. Another was titled Staying Independent as You Age. The third explained how adult children could help an older parent manage mail, bills, and appointments. Brooke had written a note on the back of her business card. No hard feelings. Thought some of this might be useful. I carried the bag inside and set it on the counter. The bread was the kind I liked. The soup was still warm. I called Stephen. Did you leave a bag at my door? No? Brooke did. That was nice. She included pamphlets about managing my bills. He paused. She picked those up at some community event. Why did she give them to me? I don't know. Maybe she thought the safety information was useful. Did you read them? No. I opened the pamphlet about mail. A section suggested that families watch for missed payments, unopened envelopes, and unusual spending. My bills are paid, I said. I know. Does Brooke? Dad, it's a pamphlet. After I asked her to account for a missing book. You're connecting things that might not be connected. Maybe? He exhaled. Please don't turn the soup into another fight. I looked at the 2 containers. I didn't ask for soup. She was trying to be kind. The old answer rose automatically. I should accept the gesture. I should overlook the insult folded beneath it. I should be grateful that they thought of me at all. Instead, I put the pamphlets back in the bag. I'm bringing these to the carriage house. Don't. Why? Because she'll think you're rejecting everything she does. I'm rejecting this. He went quiet. I have to work, he said. I carried the bag across the yard. Brooke was unloading produce from her car. I set it beside her rear tire. The food is fine, I said. The pamphlets aren't. She looked into the bag. I thought they might help. With what? Living alone? Staying organized? I'm organized. I didn't say you weren't. You included a guide about taking over my mail. Her expression remained calm. You've seemed overwhelmed lately. My wife's book is missing, and you've made dozens of calls, printed pages, and started keeping files, because your answers keep changing. She lifted the bag. I was trying to lower the temperature, then return the book by Friday. She watched me walk away. At the house, a mail truck stopped at my box. Before I reached the front path, Brooke crossed the yard behind me. I can get that, she said. I've got it. You're soaked. It's rain. She reached the box first and pulled out the envelopes. I held out my hand. Brooke glanced through them before giving them to me. There was an electric bill, a hardware catalog, and a white envelope addressed to Neil Grant or responsible family member. Brooke kept her fingers on that one. What is it? I asked. Probably junk. Then I'll throw it away. She released it. The return address belonged to a senior planning service in Lancaster. I looked at Brooke. She gave me a small, careful smile. It might be worth opening, she said. I opened the envelope at the kitchen table. It confirmed an in-home planning consultation for Thursday morning. The service offered help with bills, household safety, future care, and family communication. Near the bottom, it listed Brooke Grant as the requesting family member. I held the letter up. Did you arrange this? I asked them to send information. This says someone is coming tomorrow. It's a free consultation, to discuss my bills, to discuss whatever you want. I don't want to discuss anything with them. Brooke shifted the grocery bag against her hip. Then cancel it. Why did you schedule it? I thought a neutral person might help. Help with what? You're grieving. Janet died 4 years ago. That doesn't mean you're finished grieving. No, it means grief isn't a new explanation for this week. She looked toward the carriage house. You're standing in the rain arguing about a free appointment. I'm standing here because you read my mail before handing it to me. I looked at the envelope. You held onto it for 2 seconds. Don't take anything from my mailbox again. She shook her head. You make everything sound sinister. I made a direct request. Fine. Get your own mail. I always have. I went inside and closed the door. The consultation office answered on the second ring. A woman introduced herself as Elaine. I gave her the appointment number from the letter. I didn't request this visit, I said. She paused. I have a family referral from Brooke Grant. That's correct. What did she tell you I needed? I'd rather discuss that in person. I'd rather know why you're coming into my house. Elaine remained polite. The intake mentioned some concern about household organization, bill management, and increased distress around family decisions. Anything else? There's a note about difficulty adjusting after the loss of a spouse. I looked at the folder on my table. Did she tell you my wife died 4 years ago? I don't have a date here. Did she tell you why I was distressed? No details were provided. Did she mention a missing recipe book? No. That answered one question. Brooke had removed the cause and reported only my reaction. Is this a medical assessment? I asked. No. We don't diagnose anyone. We help families plan. Do you report on whether someone can manage their own affairs? No, sir. If a client asks, we can recommend other services. That isn't what tomorrow's visit is. I considered canceling. Instead, I said, keep the appointment. All right, bring the intake form. There was another pause. I can review the relevant notes with you. Bring whatever Brooks submitted about me. I'll bring the referral summary. I wrote down her name and the time. The next morning, Elaine arrived at 9:58. She carried one thin folder and a tablet. She looked around 60 and wore flat shoes that squeaked on my kitchen floor. I offered coffee. She accepted. While it brewed, she glanced at the handrail along the basement stairs. That's sturdy, she said. I built it. And the cabinets? Those too. She ran her fingertips along the edge of a door. Beautiful fit. I poured the coffee and sat across from her. Let's start with the referral. She opened the folder. Brooke said you've become increasingly concerned about records and expenses. I have. She said you've been making repeated calls about the same issue. I called because she took something from my house. Elaine looked up. A recipe book. I showed her the empty place in the china cabinet. Then I showed her the scanning confirmation, delivery status, written return request, and Brooke's reply. Elaine read each page without commenting. She didn't mention this, she said. No? What outcome do you want from me? The truth about why you were sent. She set the papers down. Brooke said you recently accused her of financial dishonesty. She was concerned the dispute might affect the business and your relationship with your son. Did she say I missed bills? She said you may need support tracking household and business expenses. May need? That's the language she used. I brought out a metal file box from the pantry. Inside were folders for taxes, insurance, utilities, permits, and maintenance. Janet had started that system when we first bought the house. I had kept it. I placed the current electric folder on the table. The most recent paper bill was from January. I stopped. Elaine noticed. Is something missing? Maybe. I checked the gas folder. January again. The payments had continued through automatic withdrawal. I reviewed them every month on my bank statement, so nothing was overdue. I simply hadn't noticed that the paper bills stopped arriving. Brooke had seen me take the mail for years. She knew where I kept it. She also had access to the account numbers because copies were in the carriage house office. Elaine closed her tablet cover. I think your concern is a family dispute, not a planning issue. Does that mean you're done? It means I don't want my visit used for a purpose I wasn't told about. I appreciated the plain answer. Will you tell Brooke that? I'll tell her I'm not recommending services. Tell her I asked to see the referral. I can do that. She finished half her coffee, left her card, and departed. The visit had produced one useful result. Brooke's version had not survived a basic look at the facts. It also showed me something I had missed. I called the electric company first. After answering security questions, I asked when paper bills had stopped. January 27th, the representative said. The account was switched to electronic delivery. By whom? I can't see a name, only that the change came through online account access. What email receives them? She read an address connected to the catering business. Remove that address. I can change it after verifying the account. I verified it. She restored paper billing and changed the online password link to my email. Then I called the gas company. The same thing had happened there. That representative could see more. The request came from a secondary contact, he said. Brooke Grant? Yes. Was she allowed to change delivery? She was listed as an operating contact for the commercial kitchen. I had added her when they began using the space. It let her report a gas leak or schedule service without waiting for me. I hadn't understood that she could also change where the statements went. Remove her as a billing contact, I said. Leave her emergency access only. He made the change. Then I checked the water account. The bills still came by mail, but Brooke's email had been added for duplicate notices. I removed it. Nothing had been stolen. No payment had been missed. Brooke could claim she wanted copies because the kitchen used most of the utilities, but she had quietly put herself between me and information about accounts in my name. Then she had told a planning service I needed help managing bills. I placed the account confirmation numbers in the folder. At 11:30, Brooke called. Did you remove me from the utilities? Yes. Why? You changed the delivery settings, so I could track business costs. You didn't tell me. You pay them automatically. That isn't the point. I need usage information. Ask for it? Every month? Yes, that's inefficient. It's my account. She lowered her voice. Elaine called me. I expected she would. She said you showed her a stack of documents. I showed her why I was concerned. You performed for her. I answered her questions. You made me look dishonest. You left the book out of your referral because the referral wasn't about the book. Then what was it about? Your behavior. My behavior started when you took it. You're proving my point right now. What point? That you can't separate one emotional issue from practical decisions. I looked at the electric folder. You changed my mail without asking. They're utility statements for a kitchen we operate. They're addressed to me. You're making our work harder. Then pay for your own service. She went silent. I hadn't planned to say that. The accounts covered both buildings, so separating them would require new meters and more work. It wasn't a simple threat, and I didn't pretend it was. I didn't say I was cutting anything off, I added. I said those bills aren't yours to redirect. Friday is tomorrow, she said. I know. I'm trying to get the book back. From whom? I told you, the photographer. You still haven't given me a name? I don't have permission to share someone else's information. You shared mine with Elaine. She ended the call. That afternoon, I changed the lock on the house mailbox. It was a small metal box mounted beside the front path. Janet had bought it after a neighborhood dog tore open one of her seed catalogs. I removed the old cylinder, fitted a new one, and tested the key twice. I kept one key on my ring. The spare went into my bedroom desk. While I worked, Stephen pulled into the driveway. He stood beside me, watching. You're locking your mail? I'm controlling who opens it. Brooke didn't open anything. She redirected 3 utility accounts. She needed the statements. She could have asked. She said you removed her access. I limited it. He shoved his hands into his pockets. You realize this affects me too. I realize that now. What's that supposed to mean? You keep showing up to explain what Brooke needed after she already took it. I came to ask if we could settle this. Bring the book tomorrow. And if she can't, why can't she? She has a buyer coming to the tasting. I stopped turning the screwdriver. A buyer for what? The Heritage package. Is that the $1,200 sale? I think so. You think? That's what Brooke told me. What does the buyer collect? A printed set? Maybe some original material. What original material? I don't know. I put the screwdriver into my pocket. You spoke to her after I asked you to find out. Yes. And you still don't know. She said the customer bought an experience. Pickup happens during the public tasting because Brooke wants photographs. Photographs of what? The presentation, the food. I don't know. When is the tasting? The first Saturday in May. That's more than a month away. Why can't my book return tomorrow? He looked toward the carriage house. She wants to display it. I said no displays. I know. Did you tell her that? She received your letter. That isn't what I asked. Stephen's jaw tightened. I told her you were serious. Did you tell her to return it? Yes. What did she say? That she would handle you. The words hung between us. He looked embarrassed as soon as he repeated them. Handle me, I said. She meant calm you down. With pamphlets and a consultant? I didn't know about the appointment. But you know now. He nodded. Do you think I need help managing my mail? No. My bills? No. Do you think I forgot where the book was? No. Then stop letting her describe this as confusion. He looked at the new mailbox lock. She's scared, he said. Of what? Losing the business. I haven't threatened the business. You told her to stop using the scans. The Heritage menu is most of our new bookings. That menu existed before she took the book. The story sells it. Whose story? He had no answer. I handed him the old mailbox cylinder. Throw that in the hardware bin at the carriage house. He took it. Will you come tomorrow when she brings the book? I asked, if she brings it. No, that answer is the problem. Come at 4:30. All right. And tell her the deadline hasn't changed. He walked across the yard. At 4 that afternoon, the mail carrier stopped at the new box. I unlocked it after the truck left. There was one letter from the planning service, probably sent before Elaine's visit. There was also a thick envelope from a local legal document company addressed to Brooke Grant, care of Neil Grant's residence. I didn't open it. I carried it to the carriage house and handed it to Brooke. She turned the envelope over so the sender's name faced down. What is it? I asked. Business paperwork. Why did it come to my house? You just made me remove the business email from everything. This came by mail. It's the address we use. You use the carriage house address. It's the same property. She slid the envelope into her laptop bag. What business paperwork? I asked. Nothing you need to manage. Then she zipped the bag closed and carried it into the office. At 4:30 the next afternoon, Stephen came through the back door. He He carried no book. Where is it? I asked. Brooke's bringing it. Is she? She said she'd be here. We sat at the kitchen table. The folder remained between us. Stephen kept looking at the clock above the stove. At 4:52, Brooke parked beside the carriage house. She entered my kitchen carrying her laptop bag and the thick envelope from the day before. No book. You have 8 minutes, I said. I'm aware of the time. She sat beside Stephen and placed the envelope on the table. Where's Janet's book? Safe. Friday at 5 was the deadline. I said I'd review the date. I never agreed to it. You removed it without permission. You don't get to negotiate its return. Brooke looked at Stephen. He said, You told me you were bringing it. I told you I was handling it. That isn't what I asked. She turned back to me. The buyer has already paid. For what? The heritage package. Does that include the book? I've answered that. Answer again with Stephen sitting here. No, it doesn't include permanent ownership of the physical book. The wording bothered me. What does it include? Access to the collection, selected reproductions, the tasting, and a presentation. Does the buyer take the book home? No. Will the buyer hold it? It's part of the presentation. That isn't what I asked. Brooke opened her laptop but did not turn it toward us. The order language is standard marketplace language. Show it to me. I can't disclose buyer information. Cover the name? We've done this. Stephen leaned toward her. Just show us. Why are you acting like you don't know any of this? His face changed. I don't know any of it. You helped me set up the package. I helped price the tasting. You knew there were collectible materials. Printed materials. I never said only printed. Stephen looked at me, then back at her. What did we sell? We sold an experience. What leaves with the customer? Brooke's fingers rested on the laptop. Some items are still being finalized. You already took the money, I said. Yes. Where is it? In the business. That's not an answer. I paid the supplier. The pink invoice came back to me. All $1,200? I asked. Most of it? When? Last week. Stephen pushed his chair back. You told me that bill was covered by an event deposit. It was a customer deposit. For this? It all goes into the same business. You said we had breathing room. We did. We do. If the package doesn't happen, do we have the money to refund it? Brooke closed the laptop. Why wouldn't it happen? Because Dad didn't authorize the book. He authorized the recipes. Not the book. She turned on him. You carried it over. I carried it over for scanning. And you knew I was developing the collection. I did not know you took $1,200 from someone. The clock reached 5. I stood, walked to the china cabinet, and opened it. The empty shelf was still there. The deadline passed, I said. Brooke took a slow breath. This is why we need to discuss the other issue. She pulled papers from the thick envelope. The first page had my name at the top. Under it were boxes for memory concerns, financial judgment, emotional fixation, and ability to manage property. Several boxes had been checked. What is that? I asked. A petition for a competency evaluation. Stephen stared at her. You said those were planning forms. They are. You called it a family support review. It starts that way. I picked up the first page. The form described a request for the county court to determine whether an adult required help managing financial or property decisions. It wasn't filed. The signature page was blank. Still, someone had typed a statement about me. It said I had become preoccupied with my deceased wife's belongings. It said I had made repeated accusations involving routine business expenses. It mentioned changing locks, restricting mail access, and threatening to disrupt a family business over recipes I had previously shared. The recipe book itself was described as a household item, temporarily borrowed with family consent. Family consent, I said. Stephen gave permission, Brooke replied. It wasn't his to give. That's the kind of rigid thinking they look at. Stephen took the page from me. You put my name in this, as the adult son. I didn't agree to a court petition. I haven't filed it. You told me you wanted a consultation. I tried that. Your father turned it into a hearing about me. I looked at Stephen. What did you sign? Nothing. Brooke opened the packet to the final page. Not yet. She placed a pen beside him. He stared at it. You brought me here to sign this? I brought you here so we could protect ourselves. From Dad? From what happens if he makes an impulsive decision that shuts down our work. I hadn't mentioned the kitchen authorization. I hadn't even considered ending it, but Brooke had. That told me she understood the arrangement better than I thought. You scheduled Elaine before I said anything about the kitchen, I said. You removed my utility access after the appointment. You've been escalating all week. You took the book before any of it. Brooke pressed 2 fingers against the petition. This isn't punishment. It creates a neutral review based on false information, based on observable behavior. Did you tell them you changed my billing statements? I added a business email. Did you tell them the book was returned to you and then sent somewhere else? It's being professionally handled. Did you tell them you used its image to collect $1,200? The money paid a legitimate supplier. Did you tell the buyer it was yours? She looked down. That was not an answer, but it was the closest I had received. Stephen picked up the pen. I watched his fingers close around it. Don't, I said. He looked at me. I didn't tell him I was his father. I didn't mention the kitchen or the bills I paid. I gave him the same thing I had asked from the start. Make your own choice, I said. Brooke leaned closer to him. If we don't get ahead of this, he can pull everything out from under us. I haven't pulled anything, I said. Yet? Stephen looked between us. Then he placed the pen back on the table. I'm not signing a competency petition because Dad wants Mom's book returned. Brooke's chair scraped against the floor. You think that's all this is? That's where it started. No, it started when he decided I wasn't family enough to use the recipes. I gave you permission to use them, I said, under supervision, inside my house, because you don't trust me. I trusted you with a kitchen. And now every repair comes with a reminder. I felt that one because there was some truth in it. I had used my help as evidence of love, then felt wounded when it wasn't treated as love in return. But that did not make the book hers. Stephen slid the petition back toward Brooke. I'm not signing. She looked at him for a long time. You're choosing his version. I'm choosing not to tell a court he's incompetent. That isn't what the form says. It's right on the first page. Brooke shoved the papers into the envelope. Fine. She stood. Where is the book? Stephen asked. I need time. Until when? The tasting. That's more than a month away. I can't undo everything in one afternoon. You had all week. I was working. You were filling out papers about Dad. I was trying to keep us from losing our business. She lifted the laptop bag. Stephen remained seated. Are you coming? She asked. Not yet. Brooke walked out alone. The carriage house door slammed a few seconds later. Stephen leaned back and covered his face. I didn't know, he said. I believe you. She told me the appointment was about getting someone to mediate. It may have started that way. No, she knew what she was doing. He lowered his hands. The certainty in his voice was new. Why would she think you could shut down the business? He asked. I own the kitchen. She knows that. I've never charged you rent. She knows that too. I didn't threaten to end access. She must think you will. Do you? He looked toward the back window. I think she's afraid of anything she can't control. That was useful. It was also incomplete. Fear explained pressure. It did not explain why she had kept the book after the scans were finished. What happens if she refunds the buyer? I asked. We'd have to delay paying for next week's food. How much money is in the business account? I don't know exactly. You're an owner of the business. I handle events and kitchen work. Brooke handles the books. That arrangement sounds familiar. He looked at me. Neither of us smiled. I'll ask to see the account tonight, he said. Don't ask for me. I'm asking for myself. That was the second choice he owned that afternoon. He stood and picked up his jacket. I'm sorry I carried the book out. I waited. He didn't add an excuse. I knew you said no, he continued. I thought keeping Brooke calm for one night was easier than dealing with the argument. Then every day after that, I kept hoping she'd fix it before I had to admit what I did. Do you know where it is now? No. Find out. I will. He left through the back door. The cost of the afternoon sat in the kitchen after he was gone. My daughter-in-law had prepared a document questioning my judgment. My son had nearly been asked to support it. The money from the unexplained sale was already paying business debts. Getting the book back would now require someone to absorb that loss. For days, I had believed the argument would end when Janet's book returned to its shelf. That was no longer enough. If Brooke returned it Friday night, she would still have the scans. She would still have the business story. She would still treat my payments as permanent and my objections as symptoms. The next thing she needed would come through another hint, another form, or another decision made in my name. I needed to know exactly what I had given them and exactly what I could take responsibility for again. I crossed the yard after dark. The carriage house lights were off. I unlocked the side door and entered alone. The white permit binder sat on the office shelf. I carried it back to the house, placed it beside Janet's folder, and began reading from the first page. The first pages were equipment records and inspection reports. I moved through them slowly. I checked dates, signatures, and addresses. Most of the paperwork was familiar because I had gathered it myself. Near the back, I found the commissary use authorization. My signature appeared at the bottom, beside Stevens and Brooks. I remembered signing it at the metal prep table. Brooke had brought sticky tabs and pointed to each place where my name was needed. I had read the sanitation requirements. I had checked the insurance section. I had made sure they were responsible for cleaning after every event. I had not paid much attention to the term of use. The agreement described their access as month to month. A paragraph on the second page said, either side could end the arrangement with 30 days written notice. The next paragraph mattered more. I read it 3 times. It wasn't a punishment clause. It wasn't hidden in special language. The agreement simply recognized that a business could not prepare food in someone else's kitchen after permission ended. I had treated the authorization like a permanent favor. The paper did not. I copied the 2 pages on my home printer. The original went into a new folder. I kept the white binder on the table. It was after midnight when I finished. The county office would not open until Monday, so I spent Saturday checking the rest of the binder. I made a list of every document that depended on the carriage house address. The list was shorter than I expected. There was the county food facility approval, the insurance certificate, the fire inspection, and the borough market vendor file. None of those gave Brooke ownership or permanent access. They only showed that the business operated from my kitchen with my consent. At 10 that morning, Stephen knocked. I let him in. He looked tired. I saw the binder was gone, he said. I'm reviewing it. Brooke thinks you took it to shut us down. I took it because the documents concern my property. Are you shutting us down? I haven't decided anything. He stood near the table, but did not sit. She showed me the account. And? We have enough for this week's food. Not much after that. Can the buyer be refunded? Yes, but it would empty most of the account. Did you see the order? No. Why not? She said the customer information is confidential. You're part of the business. I said that. What did she say? That she handles sales. I opened the binder to the commissary agreement. Did you remember this was month to month? He leaned over the page. No, neither did I. He read the termination paragraph. His face changed. So, you are shutting us down. I said I haven't decided. Then why are you showing me this? Because you asked what I was doing. He pulled out a chair and sat. Dad, 30 days isn't enough time to replace that kitchen. The agreement says 30 days. We'd lose events. Then you should know exactly what Brooke sold before asking me to keep supporting it. He looked at the page again. Does she know about this? She signed it. That doesn't mean she remembers. I don't intend to hide it. He looked toward the china cabinet. I still don't know where the book is. Did you ask directly? Yes, and she said it would be at the tasting. Then she chose not to meet the deadline. He rubbed his forehead. If you revoke this, she'll say you're retaliating. She can say what she wants. You care what people think. I care whether the facts are clear. That answer felt different coming out of my mouth. For most of the week, I had been trying to make Brooke acknowledge that I was reasonable. I had explained, waited, and repeated myself. None of it changed her behavior. The agreement did not require her approval of my reasons. Stephen closed the binder. What do you want from me? Nothing. He looked surprised. I'm not asking you to persuade her. I'm not asking you to choose me. I'm reading an agreement I signed. Can I make a copy? I'll give you one after I confirm how it works. He stood. Brooke's going to panic. That isn't a reason to ignore it. He left without arguing. On Monday morning, I called the county food facility office. A man answered. I gave him the permit number and asked a general question about the commissary agreement. If the property owner ends permission, what happens to the business approval? He pulled up the record. The caterer would need to file a replacement commissary agreement before using another kitchen. Can they keep operating during the change? Not after the current authorization ends. They need an approved preparation location. What does the owner have to do? Follow the termination terms in the agreement and send us a copy. The agreement says 30 days. Then the end date should be at least 30 calendar days after delivery. Does the county decide whether my reason is good enough? No. We only verified that the listed kitchen is available with the owner's consent. I wrote down every answer. Would anyone from your office have to inspect a replacement kitchen? If it's already approved as a shared kitchen, we verify the agreement. If it's a new location, there may be an inspection. What happens to a borough market approval tied to this permit? The market checks our active roster. If the business has no approved kitchen, it can't sell prepared food under that approval. That was the useful result I needed. The agreement meant what it appeared to mean. I thanked him and wrote the date and time beside my notes. Then I called the market office. I did not mention Brooke's name. I asked what a prepared food vendor needed on market day. The woman said, current county approval linked to an active preparation facility. If the facility changes, they need updated approval before setup. No one offered to make a decision for me. No one promised a dramatic consequence. They explained the rule and left the choice where it belonged. I drafted a notice that afternoon. I kept it to one page. It identified the commissary agreement, gave 30 days notice, and stated the final date of authorized kitchen use. It required the business to remove ingredients, equipment, and records by that date. At the bottom, I listed copies for Brooke, Stephen, the county office, and the borough market. I did not sign it. I printed 3 versions with different possible delivery dates. Then I placed them in the folder. The book was still missing. The completed listing was still unclear. If Brooke had sold only a printed package and returned Janet's book, I needed to know that before ending an arrangement that supported my son's livelihood. I wasn't ready to serve the notice on suspicion. I was ready to stop pretending I had no choice. That afternoon, Brooke entered the house without knocking. She stopped when she saw the permit binder on the table. "You can't remove that from the kitchen," she said. "I just did. We need it on site. You need access to required documents. You don't need possession of the originals. We have an event tomorrow. The event can proceed. What did you call the county about?" I looked at her. "How did you know I called?" They emailed the business account saying the owner had asked about commissary termination. I had not expected that. The man at the county office had treated my question as routine. Apparently, his note on the permit record triggered an automated message. I asked how the agreement works, I said. "Why?" "Because I signed it. You're trying to scare me. I'm checking my responsibilities. You know exactly what you're doing." She picked up the binder. I placed my hand on it before she could lift it. "Leave it. We need the fire inspection certificate. I'll give you a copy. The insurance certificate, too. I'll copy that. This is our permit binder. It contains documents for my building." She pulled once. I didn't. Then she released it. "Fine," she said. "Make the copies." I copied the 2 certificates and the current county approval. I placed them in a thin plastic folder. Brooke checked each page. "The commissary agreement isn't here. You already have a signed copy. I want the one from the binder." "No." "Why?" "Because the original remains with me." Her face tightened. That was the visible part of my new strategy. I wasn't cutting off access or hiding documents. I was controlling the originals and giving them exactly what current operations required. She could not call that confusion. She took the plastic folder. "You realize I can get copies from the county?" "Yes." "Then this proves nothing. It proves the event tomorrow has the documents it needs." She had no answer to that. At the door, she turned. "If you terminate the agreement, Stephen loses his income. I know. You'll lose him. That's his decision." "You don't mean that." I did not respond. She walked back to the carriage house carrying the copies. 10 minutes later, the printer in my study began producing pages by itself. I had forgotten it was connected to the shared wireless network. Brooke had sent the document from the carriage house office. I reached the printer and removed the first sheet. It was another copy of the competency petition. This version included a new paragraph. It said I had contacted county officials with the apparent intention of disrupting the family business, despite previously supporting its operation. The printer stopped after 6 pages. Brooke had aimed for the office printer and selected mine by mistake. I read the final page. Stephen's signature line remained blank. Below it, Brooke's signature was dated that morning. I placed the pages in Janet's folder, disconnected the printer from the shared network, and changed the house wireless password. Then I looked through the back window. Brooke stood in the carriage house office with her phone to her ear, watching my house. Her call came less than a minute later. "You changed the wireless password." "Yes. I have orders to process. You have internet service in the carriage house. It's down." Then call the provider. You set up the network. I set up the house network. Your office equipment was still connected to it. Give me the password until ours is fixed. No. She went silent. You printed private documents, she said. You sent them to my printer. You had no right to read them. My name is on every page. That doesn't make them yours. I looked at the signed petition. You told Elaine you wanted family communication. Let's communicate. Did you send this anywhere? No. Are you planning to? That depends on what you do. There was the threat stated as softly as she could manage it. What do you want me to do? Stop contacting the county. Put the permit binder back. Confirm in writing that our kitchen access isn't in danger. And then, we resolve the book issue privately. You've had that option from the beginning. Not with you escalating. The book comes back first. That isn't how a compromise works. No, it's how returning property works. She ended the call. I put her signed petition in its own folder. Then I drove to a cabinet installation I had scheduled across town. The job should have taken 3 hours. It took nearly 5. I measured one filler strip incorrectly and had to cut another. Then I installed a drawer front 1/8 of an inch too high. I noticed before the customer did, but I still had to remove it and start again. My hands were steady. My mind wasn't. The homeowner stood in the doorway while I adjusted the hinges. Everything all right, Neil? Family issue. I'm sorry. So am I. I finished the work, swept the floor, and reduced the invoice by the cost of the wasted material. She hadn't asked me to. The mistake was mine. That was the first money the conflict cost me directly. It wasn't a fortune. It was 1 maple filler, extra fuel, and 2 hours I couldn't charge. But it bothered me because my work had always been the place where I did not bring family confusion. When I returned home, Stephen's truck was in the driveway. He waited on the porch. Brooke wants a family meeting. Sunday, he said. About what? Everything. Everything is usually a way to avoid one thing. She wants us to sit down without accusing each other. She signed a competency petition. She hasn't filed it. She updated it after my county call. I know. How? She showed me. Did she ask you to sign again? Yes. And? I said no. I unlocked the front door. You can come in? He followed me to the kitchen. On the table, I placed the invoice from my cabinet job. I wrote the lost amount in a notebook where I tracked shop expenses. Stephen watched. What happened? I made a bad cut. You don't make bad cuts. I did today. He looked at the folder marked with his mother's name. Are you sleeping? Not much. That's what Brooke means when she says you're not acting like yourself. Being distracted doesn't make me incompetent. I didn't say it did. Then don't use concern to carry her argument. He sat down. She emailed the county. I stopped writing. What did she send? The petition and a statement saying there's a family dispute over the kitchen. Did she say the petition wasn't filed? I don't know. Show me. He opened the email on his phone. Brooke had copied the county office and the borough market. She described my question about termination as an impulsive threat made during an emotional disagreement. She asked both offices to keep the current approvals active unless a neutral competency review determined I understood the effect of revoking consent. The signed petition was attached. She had not said it was unfiled. I read the email twice. What did the county say? I asked. They haven't replied. The market? They said they noted the dispute and would rely on the county's active roster. That was sensible. It also meant people outside the family now had a document questioning my judgment. What does Brooke think the meeting will accomplish? I asked. She wants you to sign something confirming access through the end of the year. That replaces the month-to-month agreement. Yes. Did she tell you that? I read it. He opened another attachment. It was a proposed amendment. It guaranteed kitchen use through December and limited my ability to end the arrangement except for health or safety violations. In return, the business would begin paying a small portion of utilities in June. The amount would not cover half the gas bill. What does this have to do with the recipe book? I asked. She'll return it after the public tasting. So, the book is part of the trade. She calls it a full resolution. What do you call it? Stephen looked at the table. I call it something I wish she hadn't written down. I handed back the phone. You still want me at the meeting? Yes. Why? Because if you don't come, she's going to say you refuse family communication. She'll probably say that anyway. Please come. He rarely said please. I agreed. On Sunday, we met in the carriage house kitchen. Brooke had arranged 3 chairs around the stainless prep table. She placed a pitcher of water in the middle with 3 glasses. The setup reminded me of a sales appointment. The white permit binder remained at my house. Brooke began with a printed agenda. First, we agree not to interrupt. No, I said. She looked at me. I'm not agreeing to rules before I know what you want. The agenda tells you. Say it plainly. She set the page down. I want stability for the business. You want the book returned. Stephen wants the family intact. Stephen shifted in his chair. You asked me what I wanted, he said. You didn't listen. I am listening. I want you to return Mom's book now. Brooke pressed her lips together. It's committed to the tasting. Objects aren't committed, I said. People make commitments. The buyer expects to see it. Then tell the buyer it isn't yours. That would damage our reputation. You damaged it when you offered something without permission. She turned to Stephen. This is what I mean. Every answer is blame. Because you still haven't returned it, he said. Brooke slid the proposed kitchen amendment across the table. If Neil signs this, the book returns immediately after the tasting. Why not before? I asked. The buyer paid for access to the collection. Access to the original book, access to the presentation. You keep changing nouns when I ask what was sold. I'm using the language from the listing. Then show me the receipt. The buyer has the receipt. So, show me your copy. She folded her hands. Customer records are private. I looked at Stephen. He said, I asked too. Brooke pushed the amendment closer. The kitchen agreement gives everyone certainty. We start contributing to utilities. Neil stops making threats. The book comes home. We correct the website to name Janet as the original recipe writer. You should correct it whether I sign or not. I'm trying to offer a complete solution. A complete solution would start with the book on this table. She glanced toward the locked office. I noticed it. Is it in there? I asked. No. Where is it? I'm not disclosing the location while you're threatening our operation. Stephen stood. Brooke, what are you doing? I'm protecting the only income we have. With his book? With a contract. He already gave us a contract. One he can cancel whenever he gets upset. With 30 days notice. That's nothing. It's what we signed. She stood too. This business has been built around that kitchen. We took bookings based on it. We hired help based on it. You don't have employees, I said. Event help. You know what I mean. I also know I never promised permanent access. You made us believe it. That struck closer than I wanted. I had called the kitchen theirs. I had said things like, use it as long as you need. I had paid bills without setting limits. My behavior had encouraged dependence, even if the written agreement had not. I helped create that belief, I said. Brooke's face softened slightly. Then fix it. I am. She waited. I'm going to follow the agreement we signed. Her face hardened again. Does that mean you're serving notice? Not today. Then sign the amendment. No. Stephen moved between us, not physically blocking either of us, just filling the space. Can we take one day? He asked. Brooke picked up the competency petition from her folder. If he won't guarantee access, I'm filing this tomorrow. Stephen stared at her. You said it was only protection. It is. You're using it to force his signature. I'm asking for a neutral decision because his choices affect us. My choices affect my property, I said. Your choices affect your son. She placed the petition on the table beside the amendment. There it was, in plain view. Sign away the right to end their access, and the concern about my mind disappeared. Refuse, and she would send the concern forward. Stephen looked sick. If you file that, he said, I won't support it. They can still review the facts. The facts include this meeting. Brooke looked at him. Are you leaving me alone in this? I'm telling you to stop. She gathered the papers. This meeting is over. It was over when you made the book a condition, I said. She walked into the office and locked the door. Stephen remained by the prep table. What are you going to do? He asked. I'm not signing. And the kitchen? I'm going to verify everything before I act. If you end access, we may lose the business. I know. I may blame you for that. I know. He looked at me for a long time. I wanted to tell him I would find another way. I wanted to promise I would protect his income and recover Janet's book without making him pay for Brooke's choices. That was the promise I had made in different forms for most of his life. I did not make it again. If the facts support ending my consent, I said, I'll accept what it costs. He nodded once, then walked out through the side door. I returned to the house alone. The address book still lay beside the china cabinet. I opened it to Rhonda's number and placed the phone beside it. I had avoided calling because I did not want Janet's oldest friend pulled into a family fight. Now the buyer expected access to Janet's collection, and Brooke refused to show me what had actually been purchased. I picked up the phone. Rhonda answered with, "Neil, is everything all right? I hadn't called her since Christmas. I need to ask you something about Janet's recipes." "What happened?" "Have you seen Brooke's heritage menu online?" "I've seen some of it. Did you see a marketplace listing connected to it?" Rhonda went quiet. "Why are you asking?" "There was a completed sale for $1,200. The photograph looked like Janet's book." "I know." I sat down. "How do you know?" "Because I'm the buyer." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood her. "You bought Brooke's package?" "I bought what she advertised." "Why?" "The cover looked familiar." "Did you know it was Janet's?" "I suspected it might be. I couldn't see enough of the inside pages." "You paid $1,200 based on a suspicion?" "I could cancel through the marketplace if the description was false. At least, I could before the pickup was completed. The money is already in Brooke's business. That isn't how it should work. The marketplace shows it as prepaid, but I can dispute the item if it isn't what was offered." "What exactly did she offer?" Rhonda opened something on her end. The receipt calls it an original regional recipe manuscript with private heritage tasting and selected printed material. "Does it say you take the manuscript home?" "Not in those words." "What words does it use?" "Collection of original item at scheduled event." I closed my eyes. That sounded clear. Brooke would still argue that original item meant a printed collection. She had built enough uncertainty into every sentence to keep moving between meanings. "When is the collection?" "The public tasting." "First Saturday in May." "Did Brooke know it was you?" "My marketplace profile only shows R. Miller." "She sent a message asking whether I had food allergies." I said no. "Have you spoken to her by phone?" "No." "Have you seen the book in person?" "Not since Janet was alive." "Do you remember her handwriting well enough to identify it?" Rhonda's voice changed. "Neil, I traded recipes with that woman for more than 30 years. I could identify her handwriting from the way she crossed a capital T." I looked toward the china cabinet. "Did Janet ever give you that book?" "No." "Did she ever say Brooke could sell it?" "Not to me." "Did Janet ever describe those recipes as Brooke's family collection?" "No." "Brooke wasn't part of most of those years." I heard Rhonda close a drawer. "Have you called the police?" she asked. "No." "Why not?" "Because I still don't know what Brooke intends to hand you. You think she made a copy. She claims she did. And if she hands me Janet's actual book, then I'll know." Rhonda understood before I asked. "You want me to keep the pickup appointment?" "Yes." "Does Brooke know you called me?" "No." "Good. I don't want you tricking her." "I don't have to trick anyone. I paid for an item. I'll ask to see it. If it isn't Janet's book, don't say it is. I won't. If it is, ask her why she advertised it as hers." Rhonda took a breath. "That's going to happen in front of people." "I know. Is that what you want?" "No, it's what Brooke arranged. We agreed not to speak again until the day before the tasting. Rhonda would keep her receipt and attend as the buyer. She would not mention knowing Janet. After the call, one uncertainty remained. I knew what the receipt called the sale, but I did not know what object Brooke planned to deliver. The live pickup would answer that. The other uncertainty concerned the kitchen agreement. Brooke had already told the county I was acting impulsively. If she filed the petition, she might argue that my notice should not count. I called the county office again. The same man answered. I gave him the permit number. "I need to know whether the email you received changes the owner's right to end consent." He pulled up the record. "We received a family statement and an attachment. The attachment is an unfiled competency petition. We don't determine competency. Would it stop you from recognizing written termination? Not by itself. What would a court order changing who can make property decisions, or documentation that you're no longer the authorized property owner? Neither exists. Then we process the agreement as written. Would you inspect the business or close it for me? No. The business has 30 days to submit a replacement location. If it doesn't, the approval tied to your kitchen becomes inactive after the termination date. That distinction mattered. The county would not rescue me. It would not judge Brooke's conduct or recover Janet's book. It would simply update its roster when my consent ended. What happens at the borough market after that? I asked. If they check the roster and the approval is inactive, the vendor can't sell prepared food. Even if they already made it? Correct. I wrote that down. Can I send notice before the tasting and make it effective later? You can send it whenever you choose. Just give the full 30 days. I haven't chosen yet. That part is up to you. I thanked him. Then I reviewed the market calendar. Brooke's public tasting was scheduled for the first Saturday in May. Her next large borough market appearance fell after a possible 30-day termination date. If I served notice at the tasting, the deadline would pass before that market. The dates lined up without anyone arranging them. I printed a final version of the notice with the tasting date as the delivery date. I counted 30 calendar days twice. The final authorized day appeared in the plain language. I addressed 4 envelopes, one for Brooke, one for Stephen, one for the county office, one for the borough market. I left them unsealed. That evening Stephen came over. He entered through the front after knocking. Brooke sent the petition to the legal document service, he said. Has it been filed with a court? I don't know. Did you sign anything? No. Will you? No. He sat down and saw the envelopes. What are those? A notice I'm considering. His eyes moved to the permit binder. You're going through with it. If the pickup confirms she sold the original. Pickup? I told him a buyer was scheduled to collect something at the public tasting. I did not tell him Rhonda's name. Who is the buyer? He asked. That's for the buyer to disclose. Do you know them? Yes. His face tightened. You set this up. No. Brooke set the tasting and the collection time. The buyer contacted no one through me. How did you find them? I called someone who knew your mother's book. He stood. Rhonda, I didn't answer. She bought it? I'm not discussing the buyer with you before the pickup. Why not? Because you carry difficult information to Brooke when she pushes. That's not fair. It's accurate. He looked hurt. I let that remain between us. If you serve notice, he said, we have 30 days. Yes. That's barely enough to find a shared kitchen. It's the term you signed. We have deposits on events. Then start looking now. Brooke refuses. She thinks you'll back down. That's her choice. She says the petition will stop you. It won't. How do you know? I asked the county. He looked at the envelopes again. You're making this real. The agreement was always real. He walked to the back window. The carriage house lights reflected on the glass. If we lose the kitchen, I lose more than Brooke. I know. I carried the book out. I did that. But shutting down the business feels bigger. It is bigger. Then why do it? Because returning the book doesn't repair an arrangement where my consent only matters when it helps you. He turned around. Can we pay rent? That isn't the issue. It could be part of a new agreement. I'm not offering a new agreement. Ever? I don't know what ever looks like. I know the free kitchen arrangement ends if that sale is what it appears to be. He stared at me. That will change things between us. I know. He left without saying goodbye. I stood in the kitchen after his truck pulled away. The easier choice would have been to lock the carriage house that night. I had the keys. Brooke had ignored my deadline and used the book as a bargaining tool. But immediate lockout would have ruined food, canceled events, and punished customers who knew nothing about us. It also would have ignored the 30 days I had agreed to give. The crueler choice was public exposure before I had proof. I had the competency petition and Brooke's emails. I could have posted them beside her heritage claims and let strangers tear into her. I did not want strangers deciding what my family deserved. I wanted one boundary carried through exactly as written. I sealed the county and market copies. I left Brooks and Stephen's envelopes open in case the date changed. Then I poured 1 glass of bourbon and sat at the kitchen table. I did not toast Janet or speak to the empty room. I drank slowly while reading the notice one last time. Using it would end the arrangement I had built to keep Stephen close. The kitchen had become the reason he crossed my yard, the reason he called, and the reason he still needed me. When the glass was empty, I signed the notice. I kept it in the folder until the first Saturday in May. The public tasting began at 11. By 10:30, cars already lined the alley beside the carriage house. Brooke had opened both side doors. Cream tablecloths covered the folding tables. Small chalkboard signs identified the dishes. A vase of dried wheat stood beside the entrance. Janet's book rested under a clear display cover near the center of the room. I saw it through the open door before I stepped inside. The brown cloth cover looked darker beneath the plastic. A cream card stood beside it. The Grant Family Heritage Collection, preserved and presented by Brooke Grant. I walked toward the display. Brooke came out of the office carrying a tray of printed recipe cards. She stopped when she saw me. You came. I said I might. I assumed you'd decided not to interfere. I'm here as a guest. You weren't invited. The tasting is public. Stephen emerged from the kitchen. He saw the folder under my arm. Dad. Morning. Brooke followed his eyes. What's in the folder? Nothing you need before the pickup. Her face tightened. You know who the buyer is. I know someone is collecting what you sold. I sold a package, then deliver the package. Two women entered behind me. Brooke smiled at them and changed her voice. Welcome. Please come in. The first tasting starts in a few minutes. She waited until they moved toward the soup table. Do not create a scene, she whispered. I'm not the host. Exactly. Stephen touched her elbow. People are watching. Brooke carried the recipe cards to the front table. For the next half hour, I stayed near the wall. The carriage house looked good. I had to admit that. The maple shelf held jars of preserved vegetables. The slate boards I made displayed apple dumplings and molasses cake. Brooke had arranged everything carefully. She spoke to the guests with confidence. This menu comes from a private collection preserved within my husband's family, she said. That was different from what she had written online. She had added Stephen's family without adding Janet's name. One guest pointed toward the covered book. Is that the original? Brooke smiled. Yes. That's the heart of the collection. May we look inside? Later. We have a special presentation planned for the collector. She looked at me when she said, collector. Stephen poured soup into small cups. He kept his eyes down. Brooke continued describing the food. My work has been taking these old, informal notes and turning them into recipes modern kitchens can actually use. A man asked how old the manuscript was. It developed over several generations, Brooke said. That wasn't true. Janet had started the ledger after we married. Some recipes came from older relatives, but the handwriting and arrangement were hers. Brooke stood beside the display as if she had inherited a museum. I waited. At 11:40, Rhonda entered. She wore a green rain jacket and carried a canvas shopping bag. Her gray hair was tied back at the neck. Brooke glanced at her tablet. Are you R. Miller? That's me. Brooke's smile widened. Wonderful. We've been looking forward to meeting you. Rhonda looked past her and saw me. She gave no sign that we had spoken. I'm here for the collection, she said. Of course. We'll do the presentation after the next tasting course. I'd like to inspect the item first. Brooke hesitated. The tasting is part of the experience. I paid for an original manuscript, and you're receiving the full package. Then I'd like to see what I bought. Several guests turned toward them. Brooke maintained her smile. Certainly. She lifted the clear cover. The room quieted without anyone asking it to. Brooke placed the book on a clean linen cloth. She wore thin white gloves, more for appearance than protection. This collection has been carefully preserved, she said. The handwritten corrections show how family recipes evolve through use. Rhonda stepped closer. May I? Brooke looked at her hands. There are gloves. I washed before I came in. For preservation, I'd prefer the gloves. Rhonda put them on. Brooke opened the front cover. Janet had written her name inside in blue ink. Janet Elaine Grant. Brooke's hand covered part of it. Rhonda moved Brooke's hand aside. She stared at the name, then looked across the room at me. Neil. Every face turned. Brooke's expression changed. You two know each other? She asked. Rhonda did not answer. She turned several pages. Her fingers stopped at the chicken corn soup recipe. This is Janet's handwriting. Brooke looked toward the guests. It's from my husband's family, as I explained. No, Rhonda said. I mean, I know this writing. She traced the air above one correction without touching the ink. Janet slanted her words when she wrote quickly. She made this little loop on every lowercase k. I watched her write recipe cards at my kitchen table. Brooke removed one glove. Rhonda was it. Rhonda Miller. Stephen set down the pitcher he was holding. He recognized the name. Rhonda turned to the Chow Chow page. She read the pencil note at the bottom. Rhonda and I tried less sugar, better with 2 peppers. Then she looked at Brooke. We made that change together in my kitchen. Janet thought I was trying to burn everyone's mouth. A few people smiled uncertainly. Rhonda did not. Why was Janet's private book advertised as your property? Brooke's face went pale. It wasn't. I bought it. You bought the heritage package. Rhonda took out her phone. My receipt says the physical original is included. No, it says collection of the original item. Yes, that means collection here, as in viewing it. Rhonda opened the email and enlarged the attachment. It also says ownership transfers after inspection and acceptance. Brooke reached for the phone. Rhonda stepped back. Don't touch it. Stephen walked over. Let me see. Rhonda handed him the phone. He read silently. The receipt included the full listing description that had disappeared from the public page. One original handwritten regional recipe manuscript, physical item included. Buyer to inspect and collect at seller's public tasting. The private tasting and printed cards were listed as additional benefits. Stephen looked at Brooke. You told me the book wasn't included. I changed the package. When? After the sale. Did the buyer agree? I sent updated terms. Rhonda shook her head. You sent a message saying the tasting schedule changed. You never changed the item. Brooke looked around the room. Guests stood holding soup cups and small plates. No one was eating. This is a family misunderstanding, she said. Rhonda answered, I'm not family. I'm the customer. That left Brooke nowhere to move the words. Stephen placed Rhonda's phone on the table. Did you sell the original? Brooke said nothing. Answer me. I needed the money. That isn't an answer. Yes, she said. I listed the original. Stephen stepped away from her. She looked at him. You gave me permission? His mouth opened, then closed. I watched him decide whether to hide again. He turned to me. She asked whether she could include the book if the price was high enough. I said yes. The room felt smaller. You knew? I asked. I knew she wanted to list it. She said we could make a reproduction before pickup and replace the original with a presentation copy. Replace it for whom? For you. Brooke interrupted. He agreed it was better than losing the business. Stephen shook his head. No. I agreed because I didn't want another argument. I told myself Dad wouldn't know if the copy looked right. He faced me. I gave her permission. I knew it wasn't mine to give. There was no excuse left in his voice. Brooke turned toward the guests. I'm sorry this private disagreement interrupted the tasting. We're going to take a short break. Rhonda closed Janet's book. I'm not accepting the item. Brooke looked at her. You inspected it and confirmed it was falsely represented as yours. The recipes are part of our business. The handwriting isn't. Rhonda opened the Marketplace app. I want the refund processed now. It takes several business days. That's fine. Process it. Brooke's hands shook as she opened her laptop. Stephen stood beside her and watched the screen. She signed into the Marketplace, opened the order, and selected refund. A warning appeared that the amount would be withdrawn from the business payment balance or linked account. The business balance was too low. Brooke looked at Stephen. We'll be short for Tuesday. Process it, he said. You know what that means. Yes. She clicked confirm. Rhonda's phone chimed. Refund initiated, she said. Brooke stared at the laptop. The money had been spent, but the obligation had not disappeared. The business would now carry the shortage. Rhonda removed the white gloves. She lifted the book with both hands and brought it to me. This belongs with you. I took it. The cover felt warm from the room. I opened the front page and saw Janet's name. Then I checked the binding, the loose recipe cards, and the Chow Chow page. Nothing obvious was missing. Brooke came around the table. You can't take that until the dispute is resolved. The buyer rejected it, I said. It was part of the display. It's leaving with me. She looked at Stephen. He said, let him take it. Brooke's face hardened. You both planned this. No, Stephen said. You planned a public pickup. I placed the book under my arm. Then I opened the folder. I handed Brooke one envelope and Stephen the other. What is this? Brooke asked. Written notice ending the commissary authorization. She tore open the envelope. Her eyes moved quickly down the page. You can't be serious. The final authorized day is listed there. You're doing this in front of customers. I'm delivering it while both recipients are present. This is retaliation. It's 30 days' notice under the agreement. Stephen opened his copy. So this is final? Yes. Brooke held up the paper. The competency petition is still active. No court has changed my authority. You checked? Yes. I took out my phone and sent the signed notice by email. Brooke, Stephen, the county office, and the borough market received the same copy. Brooke's phone chimed first, then Stephen's. The county would not close the kitchen that day. The current authorization remained valid through the stated deadline. After that, Brooke and Stephen needed another approved location. The consequence was not immediate, but the choice was. Brooke looked around at the silent room. The tasting is over, she said. Rhonda picked up her canvas bag. I carried Janet's book out through the side door. Stephen followed me into the yard. Dad. I stopped. He held the notice in one hand. I'm not asking you to change it, he said. That was all. I crossed the wet grass and brought Janet's book home. I placed it on the dining table and checked every page. A few corners had been bent. The spine was looser than before. 6 pages showed faint marks near the edges where scanning equipment had held them flat. Nothing had been removed. I returned the loose recipe cards to their proper places. Then I locked the book inside the china cabinet and put the brass key on my ring instead of the upper ledge. Rhonda called that evening. The refund is pending, she said. Do you need me to send anything? No. Brooke approved it. The marketplace says 3 to 5 business days. I'm sorry you got pulled into this. I stepped into it myself. You spent $1,200 to confirm a suspicion. I knew I could dispute the charge. That's still a lot of money to leave hanging. It'll come back. 3 days later, she sent me the confirmation. The full amount had been returned to her card. That protected her. It did not restore the money to Brooke's business. The following week, Stephen came to the house with a list of shared commercial kitchens. He placed it on my counter. Most charge by the hour, he said. One requires a 6-month commitment. Which ones are approved by the county? He pointed to 3 names. Those are. Then you have options. They're expensive. I expected that. Brooke found a church kitchen that might let us work for free. Is it approved for outside catering? No. Then it isn't an option. He leaned against the counter. The county said the same thing. That was a small change. He had checked for himself. What do you need from me? I asked. An extension. How long? 3 months? No. 1 month after the deadline? No. He looked down at the list. I had to ask. And I had to answer. Could we pay you market rent for the extension? The notice ends access. It doesn't begin a rental negotiation. He nodded. He did not mention the petition. As he turned to leave, I asked, what happened with the legal document service? I called them, and I told them I did not support the petition and would not provide a statement. Did Brooke file it anyway? Not with the court. Why not? She said it would cost more than she expected. That answer sounded like Brooke. She had not withdrawn because the claims were wrong. She had stopped because pursuing them cost money and lacked Stephen's support. The 30 days continued. Brooke searched for free kitchen access. She called community halls, churches, clubs, and 2 restaurants that closed on Mondays. Every place had a restriction, an hourly charge, or no county approval for outside businesses. She never asked me for help. Instead, she emailed twice asking me to reconsider. The first message said, the public embarrassment had already punished her enough. The second said, Janet would never have wanted Stephen's business damaged over a book. I answered only the second. Do not use Janet to speak for either of us. The termination date remains unchanged. She did not reply. Stephen began moving equipment during the 3rd week. Most of the large appliances belonged to me, but the mixers, stock pots, serving trays, and storage bins belonged to the catering company. He asked if he could use my hand truck. Yes, I said. Return it the same day. He did. He also asked me to look at a damaged wheel on one of their rolling racks. I knelt beside it in the carriage house. The mounting plate had bent. I can straighten that, I said. How much? Nothing. He looked at me. I'm helping with the rack. I'm not paying your kitchen deposit. I didn't ask you to. I know. I removed the wheel, flattened the plate at my workbench, and reinstalled it. Stephen carried the rack to his truck. That was the first time in years I helped him without turning the help into money. Brooke watched from the office doorway. You'll fix a rack, but won't give us another week, she said. The rack isn't the agreement. Everything has a category with you now. It should have had one sooner. On the final authorized day, Stephen returned his carriage house key at 4 in the afternoon. He placed it on my workbench. Brooke still has hers, he said. I need it by 5. She thinks the deadline runs through midnight. The notice says access ends at 5, I told her. At 4:57, Brooke entered the shop. She dropped her key beside Stephen's. We still have dry storage inside, she said. You had 30 days. We need one more trip. Take it now. She and Stephen carried out 3 boxes while I held the door. At 5:12, the last box was in their truck. I locked the side door. Brooke stood in the alley with her arms folded. We have the market on Saturday, she said. Not under this kitchen authorization. The permit was issued for the season. The food approval depends on an active commissary. You think an inspector is going to remove us over 4 days? The roster updates when the authorization ends. They won't even notice. You received the county email. It said the record would be updated. It didn't say someone would appear. I did not answer. She climbed into the truck. On Saturday morning, I went to the borough market. I arrived before opening. Vendors were setting up tents and folding tables along the square. The air smelled like coffee and damp pavement. Brooke and Stephen's catering van was parked near their assigned space. They had prepared trays of apple dumplings, soup, sandwiches, and jars of chow chow. I didn't know where they had cooked. Stephen later told me Brooke had used the carriage house kitchen before the deadline and held the food under refrigeration. That did not extend the approval. Brooke saw me beside a coffee stand. "You came to watch," she said. "I came because my name is connected to the old authorization." "It isn't your booth, I know." Stephen unloaded a folding table without looking at either of us. A market coordinator approached with a county food inspector. The inspector carried a tablet. "Brooke Grant?" he asked. "Yes. We need to verify your preparation facility before you open." Brooke glanced at me. "Our approval is right there," she said, pointing to the certificate clipped inside the tent. The inspector read it. "This lists the Maple Street commissary. Correct. The owner's consent ended Monday. We're transitioning to another location. Has the county approved it? The paperwork is in progress." "Which location?" Brooke named the shared kitchen with the 6-month commitment. The inspector checked his tablet. "There's no commissary agreement from that facility attached to your business. We have a verbal arrangement. We need the signed agreement. The owner gave us extra time." She looked directly at me. The inspector followed her eyes. "Mr. Grant, did you extend the authorization?" "No." Brooke's face changed. "You said you were willing to help Stephen. I fixed a rack." The inspector returned to his tablet. "The Maple Street authorization is inactive. I can't approve food sales from this booth today." "The food was prepared before it expired," Brooke said. "The business needs an active approved facility while operating. We're not preparing food here. You're selling prepared food under a permit tied to a facility you no longer have permission to use." Brooke lowered her voice. "We have hundreds of dollars of food. I understand. You can't sell it here. Can we submit the new agreement now? If you have it." She did not. The inspector removed the approval card from the front of the booth and handed it to her. "This is no longer current. Once the county receives and verifies a replacement agreement, the market can restore your vendor approval." He did not accuse her of theft. He did not mention Janet, the tasting, or the petition. He enforced the existing rule and moved to the next vendor. People nearby had heard enough. A woman who had been waiting for apple dumplings stepped away. Another vendor helped Stephen lower the tent. Brooke stood behind the table. "You made sure they came," she said. "I copied the market and county on the notice. You wanted this public. I wanted the record accurate. You could have told them we had an extension. We didn't." Stephen began stacking the soup containers. "Brooke, pack the jars." She turned on him. "You're taking his side again." "No, I'm packing because we can't sell." He could fix this with one sentence. He gave us 30 days. The words stopped her. Stephen had finally said them where someone else could hear. Brooke packed the jars. I did not help. That mattered too. They had prepared for the market without valid approval, and the loss belonged to the business. They loaded the van before sales began. By Monday, Stephen had signed the 6-month shared kitchen agreement. The business paid a deposit, hourly charges, storage fees, and its own utilities through the rental rate. They reduced bookings because the shared kitchen had limited evening hours. Brooke removed the heritage package from the marketplace. She also changed the website from Family Archives to Regional-Inspired Cooking. She still did not name Janet. For nearly 3 weeks, neither of them contacted me unless it concerned mail or equipment left behind. Then Stephen called on a Thursday evening. "Can I come over?" he asked. "What do you need?" "Nothing." I waited. He added, "I just want to talk." "Come over," I said. He arrived 20 minutes later carrying nothing. No broken appliance, no invoice, no list of kitchens. I opened the front door, and he stood there with his hands empty. "You want coffee?" I asked. "Yes." We sat at the kitchen table. I poured 2 cups and waited. Stephen looked toward the china cabinet. "I'm not here to ask for the kitchen back." "All right, I need you to know that first. I heard you." He wrapped both hands around his cup. "I took Mom's book after you said no. Then I lied about why. When Brooke kept it, I helped her buy time because I didn't want trouble at home. He paused. I knew about the sale before the tasting. I know, not from the beginning. She told me after you found the listing. She said the buyer probably wanted the whole package, including the original. I told her she could decide because she had done the work. That wasn't your decision. No. He looked at me directly. I gave her permission because it was easier than telling her she was wrong. Then I let you look unreasonable for noticing. I took a drink of coffee. I almost signed that petition, he said. You put the pen down. I shouldn't have sat at the table with it. No, I'm sorry. I let the apology remain where it was. I did not tell him everything was fine. It wasn't. What are you going to do differently? I asked. He nodded as if he had expected that question. I'm taking over half the business bookkeeping. I have access to every order and account now. Anything over $200 needs both of us to approve it. That's between you and Brooke. I know. I'm telling you because I should have known where the $1,200 went. What else? I'm not carrying messages between you. That would be an improvement. If Brooke wants something from you, she asks you herself. And if you want something, I ask plainly. We finished our coffee. Before leaving, he asked, Can I come by Sunday? What needs fixing? Nothing. I thought we could have lunch. Come at noon. He did. He brought sandwiches from a deli and paid for them himself. We ate on the porch and talked about a baseball game, road construction, and a cabinet job I had coming up. He did not mention the kitchen. The following Sunday, he came again. That was how I began trusting the change, not through one apology. He returned when there was no task waiting for me. The catering business continued at the shared kitchen. The rental charge came due every month. Stephen never hinted that I should cover it. They stopped taking weekday lunch events because the kitchen was unavailable before noon. Brooke raised some prices and reduced the menu. The business survived, but it became smaller and more expensive to operate. Those costs did not come back to my checking account. About 6 weeks after the market, Brooke emailed me. I need to return Janet's scanned files and close out the document service account. May I come Friday at 4? It was the first request from her that did not tell me what I ought to do. I replied, yes, Stephen should attend. They arrived together. Brooke carried her laptop and a new flash drive still in its package. We sat at the dining table beneath the china cabinet. She opened the business cloud account and showed me the folder containing the scans. There were 143 image files, including blank pages, covers, and loose cards. She copied every file to the new drive. Then she deleted the cloud folder. She opened the trash folder and deleted it again. Next, she signed into the scanning company's account and requested permanent removal of the stored files. A confirmation appeared on the screen. She forwarded it to me. What about the second photographer? I asked. There wasn't one. I looked at her. I sent the book to a friend's locked office after it came back from scanning. I didn't want you taking it before the tasting. Why did you invent another service? Because I knew you'd demand the address. Stephen said nothing. He was there to witness, not rescue the conversation. Brooke opened another folder. This has the menu designs, recipe inserts, and marketplace images. Delete them. She did. What about your phone? She placed it on the table. The original page photographs were still there. She selected them and deleted them while I watched. Printed copies? I asked. I brought them. Stephen went to the car and returned with a sealed box. Inside were menu inserts, promotional cards, test prints, and 2 spiral-bound facsimiles. Brooke had marked the box for shredding. I opened both facsimiles. They reproduced Janet's pages, including private notes and names. I'll handle these, I said. Brooke nodded. She slid the flash drive toward me. These are all the files. You can't prove there isn't another copy. No? Then what can you prove? That I removed every copy I know about and closed the storage accounts. That was honest. She opened her email and showed me a cancellation message sent to the legal document service. The competency petition had never been filed. She had ordered the company to delete its draft and contact information. I should never have prepared it, she said. No. I was trying to make your refusal look like a problem with you. Yes. She looked at the china cabinet. I kept thinking that because Janet was gone, nobody was using her work properly. Then I decided using it gave me a claim to it. It didn't. I know. She rubbed her thumb along the edge of the laptop. Your grief didn't make the book available to me. My work didn't make it mine to sell. That was the first time she said it without adding anything about customers, expenses, or the family. I'm sorry, she said. I did not offer the carriage house. I did not give her a key. What happens now? She asked. You stop using the recipes. All of them? Anything copied from Janet's book. For how long? Until I decide otherwise. She looked disappointed. Then she said, All right. That answer mattered more than the apology. For the next 2 months, she followed it. The heritage dishes disappeared from the catering menu. When a former client asked about the apple dumplings online, Brooke replied that the recipe was no longer offered. She did not blame me in the response. In August, Rhonda came over to help identify the loose cards in the book. We sat at the dining table for an afternoon. She recognized 4 cards Janet had copied from her. She also found one in her own handwriting. You can have this back, I said. No. Janet kept it for a reason. We left it in the book. Brooke asked to visit later that month. This time, she came without a laptop. She brought a store-bought pound cake and placed it on the kitchen counter. I didn't make anything, she said. I noticed. Stephen said lunch was at noon. It is. She remained for 2 hours. The conversation was careful. There were pauses. No one pretended the previous months had disappeared. When she left, she asked whether she could come again. You can ask, I said. She accepted that too. The carriage house remained mine. I kept the commercial permit current because I sometimes helped a friend prepare food for community events, but Brooke and Stephen never operated there again. When the water heater needed service, I paid for it because it served my building. When their shared kitchen raised its rates, they adjusted their prices. We no longer confused those two expenses. Stephen and I developed a Thursday habit. He stopped after work with coffee. Sometimes he stayed 10 minutes, sometimes an hour. A few times, I caught myself searching for something useful to offer him. A tool, a repair, money for fuel. Then he would sit down and ask about my week. I learned to answer. Brooke's contact remained more cautious. She joined us for occasional meals. She never entered through the back door without knocking. She asked before opening the china cabinet, and the answer remained no. One afternoon, she asked whether she could eventually use Janet's chicken corn soup recipe again, with Janet's name attached. Not yet, I said. All right. She did not ask Stephen to change my mind. By autumn, the business had settled into its smaller schedule. Stephen handled the accounts. Brooke handled bookings and menus. They paid the kitchen rent from business income. No one asked me to make the cost disappear. If you stayed with me through all of this, tell me what you would have done. And subscribe if you want to spend time with me again. On the first cool Sunday in October, Stephen came by carrying 2 mugs of coffee. I had taken Janet's book onto the porch because Rhonda had left a note marking one of their chow changes. Stephen sat across from me and asked what the note meant. I explained the 2 peppers. He laughed and said his mother always made that batch too hot. For a while, we talked about her without needing anything from her memory. The carriage house stood behind us with its side door locked. My mailbox key and the small brass cabinet key rested beside the other keys in my pocket. Stephen reached for the book, then stopped. Can I look? He asked. I turned it toward him. He read 1 page and returned it to the same place. Then he pushed 1 mug across the table. I closed Janet's recovered recipe book on the porch table as Stephen set down 2 mugs beside it, while the carriage house key remained on my own ring.